It is incredibly important that we find just a few things in order to create a box and whisker. They are called quartiles. And we're fortunate here in this data set, they're already in a line, 21, 22, 25, 37, 47, and 54. These are the things that we have to find. The first thing we need to find is the highest value in that data set. Anybody see what the biggest number in that data set is? Leah? 54. I told you you'd like today. What's the lowest number in that data set? Oh, there's the hands. There's the hands. Coop, what'd you get? 21. Excellent. Now, here's where it gets a little bit weird, because you're thinking, what is a quartile? I don't understand what a quartile is. How do I find it? You actually start with the second quartile. The second quartile has another name. It's called the median. It's called the median. So we're going to find that number exactly like we did with the problem of the day today. So in order to find the median, we cross off from both sides, cross off from both sides. And it's the number right in between 25 and 37. So to find that number, we're going to do 25 plus 37. And then divide that by 2, and that gives us our median, our middle number, which is 31. So our second quartile is 31. The next thing that we do is we find our lower data set. That's those numbers right there. The first quartile is the median of our lower data set, 22. We have those three numbers there. 22 is the median of that lower data set. Then I take my upper data set and I find the median of that. That is my third quartile. The inner quartile range is the distance from this number right here to this number right here. So when I do that, I subtract 47 minus 22, and that'll give me my inner quartile range. Anybody find it? 25. Bailey? 25. That is all the information that you'll need in order to make a box and whisker fly. I told you you'd like today. Do number 2 on your own. All right, folks, let's take a look at these values. Let's start with the highest value. What is the highest value in this set? Taylor, what's the highest number there? Awesome. There you go right there. What is the lowest? Brandy? 33. Now I've got those 3 quartiles, but remember we find the second quartile first. Kind of weird, I know. Daddy, what'd you get there? 42. 42. Outstanding. Notice we cross off, cross off, cross off, cross off. So it's going to be right in between those two numbers. 41, 42, 43. So our middle number there is 42. Add those together, divide by 2, you still get 42. Now our first quartile is going to be the median of our lower data set. What is the median of that lower data set? Brooke? 40. 40. Outstanding. It's that middle number right there. And the median of our upper data set? Gilpin? 46. 46. Outstanding. And the inner quartile range? Becker? 6. Good. The inner quartile range is telling you how spread out your data is. How far is it from that point right there to that point? Most of your data is going to be in that middle part. That inner quartile range is telling you how far apart those numbers are. So it's kind of useful to see. Let's skip the example number 3 and do example number 4. So do this one right here. This one's slightly different. All right, so I do feel bad. These are not in order, so that was the first kind of first little trick that you stumble across. So the way that I do this is I always cross off as I go along because I always kind of forget one of the numbers. So like 43, and then I'm looking here, 64.
That 3 is like a question mark.
Yeah, I know.
There. And then you've got 65 right there, 73, and then our last one there is 92. All right, what is the highest value in that inline? 92. What is the lowest? Greater X? 15. Outstanding. And then we find the second quartile first. That's the median of that data set. Kyle?
64.
64. Outstanding. Now this one's a little bit different. Cross off, cross off, cross off. Now our 64 is right there in the center. So to find our first quartile, we have to find the median of all the numbers below that. James, what is that?
34.
34. Outstanding. That's that number right there. And our upper data set. Austin. 73. Very good. And what about our interquartile range? What's the interquartile range of that? Becker?
39.
39. Very good. All right, now you've got a choice. You can either flip this paper over and write on the back, or you can get a separate piece of paper. I will be using graph paper, because that's just how I am.
That's how you roll.
That's just how I do.
Oh my God, you What they got that?
So we are going to use the skills that we just learned to actually graph a box and whisker plot. I feel like these box and whisker plots are some of the most undervalued graphs around. So, there's your data set. I was nice. I gave them to you in order. You need to find the lowest value, the highest value, and your 3 quartiles. I'll give you a minute to do that. All right. What is the lowest value of that data set? Brooke?
24.
All right, so our lowest number there is 24. The highest one is 54. Find the median first. Miller, what'd you get there?
37.5.
Very good. 37.5. We do that cross off there, cross off there. So it's in between 30 and 45. So to find that number, we have to add them together. 30 plus 45. And then we have to divide by 2. That gives us 37.5. That's that number right there. Now we find our first quartile. What is the first quartile there, Bailey? 28. And then we find our third quartile. Justin? 53. Very good.
This is easy.
The reason that they call them quartiles is because it breaks up our data into 4 sections. You're thinking, wait a minute, there's only 3 lines there. Why is that 4 sections? Notice here that you've got this section right here, this section right here, this section right here, and this section right here. Kind of like if you had a stick and you cut it in 3 places, you would have 4 small sticks. So this is our 4 quadrants, or 4 quartiles of our data. Now we graph it. So I'm going to draw a line, and the lowest value has to be 24 that we graph. So I'm going to start my graph with a 20. The highest I have to go is 54. So I might go up to like maybe 60. I'm going to go up by 5. So there's 20, 25, and then 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. So 60 is right here, 50, 40, 30. So there's my number line. Notice I didn't start at 0. You don't have to start at 0. The lowest number that we have to graph is 24. So 20 should be fine. You graph your lowest value and your highest value with a dot. So my lowest value is 24. There's 25, so 24 is right below it. I'm just going to put a dot up above there. Then I'm going to go to the highest value, which is 54. 55 is right there. 54 is going to be just in front of that. My quartiles I represent with a vertical line, not a super long one. 28. So here's 30. So 28 will be just a little bit before 30, and I'm just going to put a straight line up and down. Second is 27.5, which is right about here. And our third is 53, which is right about here. Then you connect that interquartile range. That's first to third. Then the last thing you do is you put the whiskers on. And that is your data set.
Oh, this is about math OAA.
Yep, it has been on the Math OAA.
This is one of the questions we had on the practice in the
Exactly. I think the question that they asked you on the practice was, given this graph, what was the median of the data? Right, the median of the data is going to be that number right there. These graphs are actually really useful. One of the really nice things that they do is they show you that low value and the high value. Just by looking at this graph, you can tell that that high value is much closer to the main set of the data than the lower one is. The lower one was 24, and that's not as close as that high one is to that point right there. You can also see that the median of your data is kind of towards the lower end of the bulk of your data. Most of our numbers fall in between those 2 points right there, in between that interquartile range. That's where most of our information, most of our numbers are. Let's look at one more example. This one's going to have more numbers, but I'll be nice and I'll put it in order. I know, I'm like such a nice guy. Right, I know. I'm amazing, honestly. So you're going to find all that information that we found on the first one, the highest number, the lowest number, and all three quartiles. I'll give you a minute to do that. So our lowest is the 35, highest is the 68. You got to find the second quartile first. Cross off, cross off, cross off, cross off. This time we got one right there in the middle at 48. Now, one mistake that a lot of people make is they try to include the 48. That 48 is on its own now. You have to find your lower data set and the higher around that 48. Do not include it. So now I find my first quartile, cross off, so it's in between 36 and 43, which gives us 39.5, so that'll be right there. And then our third one is in between 63 and 64. So that'll be 63.5. And when we create our graph, we have to start with a number a little bit lower than our data set here. I would start with 30, just makes it a little bit easier. And then maybe go up by 10. So there's 40, 50, 60, and 70. So like that. 70. Our lowest number is 65, so put a dot right there at 65. Our lowest, I'm sorry, 35. Our highest number is 68, so right about there. And then we put a vertical line at 39.5, which is right about here. 48, and 63.5, which is right about here. And then we connect. And connect those. So even though these data points, these two sets look similar, there's definitely some differences. This looks like it's a little bit more spread out. Our highest value is farther away from the middle part of our data. This one looks like it's about the same. So that is, in essence, how you make a box and whisker.